It's the Center Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Yes! Yes! Yes, this is my favorite part of the game.
Analyzing all of the league matchups week to week.
You can't win!
Get him a body bag! Finish him!
It is a bit above average.
I said this sucks, and basically so do you.
And discussing the boom, bust, and hidden gem players throughout the league.
We ain't found shit!
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Laces out.
Touchdown!
And here's your host,
Allow myself to introduce myself.
David Harbatkin.
Hello and welcome to the Center Fantasy Football Podcast for the wild card week of Season 5. I'm your host, David Harbatkin, joined by the Commissioner, Mr. Gazalutsky.
What's up, people?
Sorry that the show was not on last night. I felt like pure, unfiltered dog crap. Tonight I feel like filtered dog crap, so I feel a little bit better, so I'm ready to do the show. But there is how could we possibly miss wild card week? We're not going to. And there were so many exciting games last week leading us into these playoffs. So we'll start there and talk about those games, including one game that is the closest game in league history. But I think that we should start with the one game that really determined so many people's playoffs fates, which was the Hackettstown Hagglers versus Dr. Hockey's House Targaryen. Now, since this was your game, I will allow. I'll have you go over the review of it. So, plus, I don't want to talk that much. So,
all right. Well, I gotta tell you, that was the last 2 weeks have been playoff games with the Lightning Rods and Dr. Hockey. Both of those, if I lost either of those, we were in this formulation. We were out. I mean, there was no way. Points. We had the lowest points scored. So these were both must win. And then the Dr. Hockey was win, and then you're in with the 7-6 record. And I didn't really get back to Kimmel because he sent me a message. Like, he was questioning about the whole. Did he send you this? I saw you guys going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's points for is the tiebreaker, not like performance against the teams that that other tiebreaker where it's like how you performed against the other teams. That points scored has always been the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I mean that. So the thing that he was looking at, which he was referring to, is the tiebreaker within a playoff game. So if a playoff game somehow ends up exactly tied, which would be a miracle to even get it down to the decimal point. But if it did happen, that's what that tiebreaker means, which is the head-to-head matchup during the regular season. That's how that tie would be broken, not for the season. It's an in-playoff game tiebreak.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to the game, so Dr. Hockey, Julio Jones blew it up for 50 points last week, which I believe is the most points anybody has scored this season in the league. But I knew that for him to do that again this week was highly unlikely. And as you can see, the 4.4 points, I mean, he got shut down by the Minnesota corner. I mean, 2 catches for 24 yards. That was really tremendous right there. So we got up to a fast start. McClown to Anderson has been magic lately. And then I was watching the Sunday night game with Wentz. Whew, that was a nail-biter. But the Seahawks, they can play some defense. So he finished with 19 points. And, the rest of it down the road, we threw a lot of people in the garbage can for this game. We were just like, all right, this is basically a playoff game. Let's go for it. I mean, Hockey had Lynch and Engram did very well. It was a very close game, 116 to 106. It was a pretty good matchup. Not as close as the Nick and Jamie, versus Eugene game, which we're going to get to. But this is a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, you both had terrible RB1 performances. He had Duke Johnson get 3.2. You had Jacquez Rogers get 2.5, which is pretty pathetic. McClown like decimated Wentz, which is something that you wouldn't normally expect, and Robbie Anderson like what is that? More than 4 times, almost 5 times Julio Jones score. I mean, that's quite impressive. Now Golden Tate did outperform Diggs. Your running backs, Drake got 23 to Marshawn Lynch's 20, so that's pretty even, and you know, and Ingram got 22 to Henry's 15. Zay Jones with only 4 and Richardson with only 2, and then the kickers both had 2, and you both had pretty good performances by the defenses. But overall, McCown and Anderson really won this game for you compared to Jones and Wentz. So I mean, you know, it's an impressive. And this was one of those weeks. You know, we've had weeks where, you know, there are very high scores all across the board, and then there's weeks where there's like low scores across the board. And I think we're going to see more low scores across the board as we get further into December. But this was like kind of a low scoring week for the most part. So this is actually a pretty good score for your team, given the week, having 116. He did leave, let's see. I mean, you didn't really left much on the bench. I mean, Keenum had 20, but I mean, that's not going to make a difference. It was like only 0.8 more than Wentz, and obviously you play Wentz there. I mean, 10 for Ellington. But other than that, I mean, you left Westbrook with 13. But nothing really left on the board. I mean, I would have at least played Smith or whatever you had. Like, I wouldn't have played Rodgers because he was not the starter. So that's a little bit of a mistake that you got away with. But, you know, overall, you did what you needed to do. And by virtue of doing that, you eliminated a bunch of teams.
There was a lot riding on this game. This game affected like almost a half a dozen teams.
Yeah, it closed the door on a lot of those teams, and it closed the door on the loser of the the Black Ice Dynasty and Tillett Trey team game. So let's get to that game now, because by virtue of you winning, it meant that this was a winning game. It turned that game into a playoff game. So the winner of that game was going to get into the playoffs. The loser of that game was going to go home. Black Ice Dynasty ended up winning 146.60 to 90.42. Just an impressive performance across the board for Miner here. I mean, he had the highest score in the league. 20 points for Mariota. It's okay, but I mean, still Mariota. AJ Green with 26, 16 for Funchess, 14 for Gordon, 29.6 for Kamara, only 3.5 for Davis, and 15 for McCaffrey, and 10 for his kicker, and 10 for his defense. As opposed to Tillett, who only got 7 from Ryan, 11 from Landry, 12 from Watkins, 21 from Gurley, which is good, 9.9 from Perrine, 11.6 for Grams, and then 6, 7, and 3 for Gore, the kicker, and the Pittsburgh defense. So, I mean, he just couldn't keep up with the numbers that Miner was getting out of the game, out of his players there. And Miner moves on to the playoffs and got 4th place. So, quote-unquote home field advantage in the wild card round. But, yeah, your thoughts on this game?
I like the word Black Ice Dynasty pulverizes to a tree.
Yeah.
You really like to drive it home with these captions.
I know, I love the captions. They're really funny.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gurley showed up, and, I mean, you disagreed earlier, but I still think Tillett Trey is still trying to recover from the loss of Dalvin Cook. I mean, he just that RB2 spot has been, you know, it's been a carousel of different players in there, and this week, that P. Ryan guy from Washington is not getting it done. Neither did Gore.
I didn't disagree with that. What I said was that I thought that the Aaron Rodgers injury, thereby affecting Jordy Nelson, was the bigger factor. I mean, I agree that Dalvin Cook was a bad blow to his team, but the the fact that Jordy Nelson is, I mean, he's not even playing in this game for him. I mean, he got 6.7 points. I mean, against Tampa Bay, and he and he just can't play him. I mean, that's a devastating loss. I think that might be more than Dalvin Cook. Maybe not. I don't know, but they're both. I mean, they're two catastrophic losses to his team. I mean, what was his record? I'm shocked that he's out of the playoffs, to be honest with you. I mean, because his record was pretty damn good for a really long time up until Aaron Rodgers got injured, and then it tanked because of that. Because I think he's slightly.
I think it went hand in hand with Nick Slide. Both those teams were really Aaron Rodgers dependent.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. I mean, because I think I don't remember exactly what I said, but I'm pretty sure I said something to the effect of he recovered slightly from the Dalvin Cook injury, but he didn't recover from the Aaron Rodgers one. But that being said, I mean, the combo of the two, was too much. But I mean, then again, there's you look at your team, you look at my team, and we've suffered some pretty devastating injuries. I mean, a lot of people have. But I think the two of us kind of just kept making moves. I mean, you especially kept making moves, and I kind of have too. Whereas Nick didn't make anything. I mean, Tillett made some, but.
I mean, it doesn't really. It can be misleading. I mean, we made 75 moves, which by far was more than anybody. And we're playing LeVar Minor, who has spent $0. He has his full $200 budget, so it doesn't matter. Still make the playoffs with either approach.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. As far as Tillett's season, I mean, it's a disappointing way to go out. I mean, I thought that he, I think really the story of his season is those two injuries. I mean, I think otherwise he was a good team this year, and he was a semifinalist or he was the runner-up last year. So and I thought that he was going to at least get back to the playoffs, but I'm shocked that it didn't happen. But
yeah, it's yeah.
But I mean, it's certainly not a terrible. It wasn't a bad season. I mean, it ends up under 500, but
There were some weeks where Tillett was, he was cruising along, and then I think, like you said, Nelson was a big part of that equation.
I think he was under the radar most of the season too. Like I think that he was winning under the radar and losing under the radar. Like I don't think that I mean, he was always just kind of there in fourth, fifth place kind of stuff, and then just I mean, there was a run by Nick and Jamie towards the end, and you by the end, and that kind of just took him over. But I mean, because he was always, I mean, like I think this is the first week where he wasn't in playoff position. To be honest with you, I don't know for sure, but I think that might be the case.
Yeah, so I'm just going through his record. So he went. So then he got to 3. He started off 3-1, and then he dropped 2. So he was 3-3, and then he went to 4-3. And then he went to 4-4. So he was kind of like bouncing back and forth between 5. It must have been after the Aaron Rodgers. And then he was like 5-4, and 5-5, and he had like 1-1 and lost 1.
Yeah,
it looked like was his pattern.
Yeah, I mean, and he was just on the edge of being in, and like had Nick and Jamie not had as many points, he would have been in. He was the next highest, He was the next highest. Mm-hmm. And had the Hagglers not made it, they would have been the team that was in. So, I mean, was really on the cusp of being the team that was going to make. I mean, he had the best chance out of anyone that didn't make it.
He was kind of in a win and you're in scenario, but it wasn't really talked about because he still needed a Hagler loss.
Well, I mean, he was in a win and get in scenario. Like, had he won this game, he would have been in. he would have had the 7-6 record.
Yeah, but it was like, I don't know if this was viewed as much of a must-win because another team's loss could have also gotten him in.
Well, I think that was the story of this game in general. Like, you know, like that we said that the winner would definitely get in, and the loser might get in. You know, so there wasn't as much pressure, like it wasn't as definitive, for example, you know, as the Hagler's game, which was like you get in, you're in, you lose, you're out. This was get in, you know, win and get in, or lose and maybe get in, depending on a Hagler's loss. But it still had the same. I mean, it ended up, because of the Hagler's win, it ended up being a must-win game, and so it might not have been talked about as much, but it was definitely the same circumstance, or at least it ended up that way.
And I mean, 146 to 90. I mean, there's very little any of the Tillett players could have done to really offset that score. I mean, I'm just looking up and down, like maybe if this guy had done something, this was just a thorough whooping.
Well, and then
tip your hat to LeVar Minor.
Well, then you add to that. Like, when you look at like Minor's bench, there was 93 points left on the bench. I mean, he had 14 from Hilton on the bench, and Lee with 21 on the bench.
I just had a monster week again.
I know, Burkhead with 25 points, Gordon with 12.5, Winston with 22.6. I mean, like his entire bench almost would have beaten. I mean, he could have played his bench and they would have beaten Tillett's team there.
That's just, LeVar has those weeks. It's just, my goodness.
Yeah, it's like every other week. He has like an ungodly week followed by what happened that week. I don't know. He's feast or famine, and this week he was feasting. All right, so that brings us to well, I guess one other game, kind of almost. It didn't ultimately matter, but it could have mattered, which was the Blues versus the special team. So the story here was that the Blues and Eugene were tied in record, and Eugene had Lombardi on points. So the Blues needed a Blues win and a Eugene loss in order to get the bye in second place. The Whalers, I mean, they needed to win and have a lot of help. I don't even know what would have had to have happened. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, they ended up at 5-8, so I don't even know the math right now at this point. But yeah, I mean, so the Blues had a lot to play for. The Whalers, I mean, I don't know, not as much. But but the Blues did take care of business. They got 122.06 to 106.76, and the Blues, look, ever since Aaron Rodgers has gotten hot, I mean, like, look, there was a period of time during the season where we were saying, you know, that they were just winning games. What?
You mean Phillip Rivers.
That's what I meant.
You mean Phillip Rivers. You said Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry. But yes, where Phillip Rivers, where he's made the difference. I mean, so the Blues, there was a period of time where we were saying, like, the Blues, yeah, they're winning, but they're not scoring anything, you know? And then suddenly, Phillip Rivers gets hot, and it changes that. I mean, I think he got 150 something the week before. I mean, he's been on a roll with, like, between Rivers and Keenan Allen. I mean, he's just been getting massive point totals. So, you know, whereas you had him winning before that, like, slightly, now he's, like, winning by decent amounts. So, I mean, that continued again. I mean, so Phillip Rivers, he only got 19.56 points this week compared to Breeze's 16.46. But Keenan Allen, 26.5 points, 105 yards receiving, and a receiving TD, and 10 receptions. So, I mean, 26.5 points from him compared to Michael Thomas, who got 18 points. Mike Evans and Demaryius Thomas didn't do anything, 5.3 to 4.7. Lamar Miller with 13.4. Carlos Hyde with only 9.6. Woodhead with only 4.3 compared to Collins in St. Louis, or in Baltimore, who got 23.8, which I guess, because, I mean, and that's the interesting thing about that is they're both on the same team. They're both Baltimore running backs, but clearly Collins outplayed Woodhead there by a lot. Played Ertz, who was questionable, and only ended up with 4.4 points versus Croft, who got 5 points. Crowder with 9.7 to 9.1 from Freeman. And then the Whalers picked up the Rams defense, which was, a good move. Got 22 points to New England's 13 and 17 from the kicker from Baltimore. But ultimately, the Blues are going into the playoffs right now, firing on all cylinders. I mean, they're really a team that is getting hot at the right time. I mean, look, they only have 4 losses all season long, but still, they, like I said, they're really on the upswing in terms of the points that they're getting. I mean, I think that they're in the kind of position that they want to be heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're on an upswing.
Yeah. I mean, what do you... And as far as the Whalers, I mean, he was flirting with making the playoffs for a while there. I mean, look, like, at the beginning of the season, he was awful. I mean, he might have been fine, like, the first couple of weeks. Then I remember there was a period of time where he was awful. And then suddenly it was like, where's the Whalers coming from? Like, he beat me, I remember. And then after that... He went on a run, and it was suddenly like, and he was even in 6th place for like a week there, where it looked like Whalers might be the team to make the playoffs, and then it just kind of fell apart at the end. So I don't know. I mean, if you're the Whalers, what do you think back about on this season?
Well, I mean, if one thing this whole season was the Ezekiel Elliott shenanigans. I mean, at one point, luck just ran out with that.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that's actually... I think he was in 6th place, and then Elliott got suspended, and then that was it. I think that's actually what happened.
I think that pretty much summed it up. So let's see. So 13, and then last week, obviously Elliott wasn't playing, and we lost to Eugene. And then the week before that, special team lost to Nick and James. So he lost 3 straight. I think that pretty much... Does that coincide with the Ezekiel Elliott suspension, pretty much?
It might.
I don't think there's pretty much anything to really read into it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Which is what I've been screaming about for all season now. What is it, 13 weeks?
That's true. And his team ended up falling apart without Elliott, which, I mean, it's the Elliott season. That was the one. That was
what a shocker.
I mean, Elliott would get like 40 points a game. I mean, like, to lose that was all the difference in the world. And yeah.
I mean, he might have won the very first week without Elliott. So he crumpled the Millennials 110 to 69. And yeah, that was Ezekiel Elliott's first week out of the lineup.
Yeah.
But then after that, it was L after L. The L's kept coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up his season. All right. Then, I mean, I guess we could talk about the least significant game of the week, which had absolutely zero implications for anyone. I don't even remember setting the lineup for this, to be honest with you. And normally, the Millennials would love to trash talk me, but I didn't even hear anything because I don't even think he set a lineup. I mean, he played I mean, okay, so this was just a pathetic game all around. He had 2 players that got 0 points because I don't even think they played. Kelvin Benjamin got 0, and Amari Cooper got 0, and he ended up winning. two men down. 2 men down, so that's pretty pathetic. I mean, largely on the back of Alex Smith, who got 45.64 points to Kirk Cousins, who only got 18, sorry. Thalian with 9, 5 for Ginn, 12 for McCoy. Hunt, who's not been that great lately, getting 9.3. Kelsey at least got 25.4, although I think after like the first 5 minutes of the game, he had like 24 points, so we only got 1.4 after that. And then we decided to match Amari Cooper's 0 with our own 0 from Coleman. and then to just outdo his defense, which got 3 points, we decided to subtract 3 points from our team with our defense. But at least Zerline, our kicker, get 17 to make something remotely respectable. And I mean, so for him, 16 points from McKinnon, 17 for Walker, and 27 for Aguilar. Gave him his point totals in this. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think, to be honest with you, I'm looking at this bench stuff. I don't even think there was any way I could have won this game. That's how pathetic we were this week. I mean, I still have the injuries to Hogan. Yeah, things are, I mean, I talked about Lombardi being exactly, peaking perhaps at the right time. Right now, the 03ers are not peaking at the right time at all. They're pretty pedestrianly pathetic the last 2 weeks. I mean, for a team that had never gotten under 100 points in his entire career, I have now in the last 2 weeks finished under 100 points, which is kind of worrying, which is why I went on the free agent market on this week and got some players, because I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. But I've also largely had a bye for the last 3 weeks, knowing that I clinched first place. So, and for the Millennials, this game didn't mean anything either. This was, he was going to be in last place. So this game literally was just a game for us to decide, to figure out who gets $5, because there was not a single league-wide implication that this game could have possibly had outside of that.
Wow. I mean, we already talked about this. There's a difference between, so like we said, you got to ride the hot hand, right? And everybody in the galaxy knows that the Kansas City Chiefs right now are in an absolute abysmal free fall, and it shows in your fantasy production with Kelsey and Hunt. They're a direct representation of what's happening to the real-life horrid Chiefs team right now. I mean, Alex Smith was 45. That's amazing. That's a shocker. But, Kareem Hunt was he got 45 in week 1.
Yeah.
What a difference a regular season makes.
Yeah.
So he was the guy getting 45 points. And now, Smith is getting it at the end. But, I mean, 9.3 points for Hunt. Like, it's great that you got the bye. You're number 1 and you're 10-3 and all this great stuff are back in. But sooner or later, the smoke and mirrors, the smoke and mirror show that you've been running here, you got to play some fantasy football at some point. You need people who can play.
That is true. That is why I made some moves. But yes, it is absolutely.
I'm back and I'm going to find I'm number 1 seed. Yeah, look at me. But and sooner or later, people are going to see through all that and be like, yeah, his star player got 9 points. It's not that good.
This is hurtful but true.
Oh, but Kelsey 25. Look at that beast. Yeah, he got all that in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
1 point for the other, 58 minutes of the ball game.
Look, if Kelsey gets 25 points, I'll take it. I don't care what minute he gets it in. I just need that for a game. Problem is that Hunt is not getting it.
And, obviously you're not going to throw in. You're not expecting -3 and 0 in your first playoff game. So you're not basing your score off of that, obviously. So so finally Harbakin's back down to earth with the rest of the dribble.
Coleman is
to actually field the team.
Well, Coleman is gone. He's already been booted off the team, as has Rasta Safarian on the bench, who got 2.7 points, and Butker's gone, and there was another guy that he was gone before the 1:00 games. It was Davis from Tennessee. He was gone. I picked up Shepard just before. I guess it would have been the 4:00 games for you guys, but yeah, yeah, we've started to clean house a little bit. So, and frankly, as far as Detroit goes, I mean, Detroit has been good. You know, the defense has been good all year, but I actually knew that this was going to be a rough patch for them. These last, like, week 13 and week 14, I mean, they were playing Baltimore. They play somebody difficult this week, too. I forgot who. But week 15 and 16, they have much easier matchups. I think it's Chicago and Cincinnati or something like that. So, I might have had to make more moves if I wasn't planning to, if I had to actually play these games, I might have made some different free agency moves. But at this point, I've just kind of been keeping the Detroit defense in a holding pattern for those games that are going to matter a little bit down the line. Although if they're getting negative 3 points, I might have to reconsider. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's not going to win any games. You can't do it. Negative 3 is the worst you can possibly get.
It's literally the worst you can get. It means you didn't get a sack. It means that you gave up the maximum amount of points and you didn't get a single sack, intercept. Nothing. You got nothing. You did nothing. No, it's the worst possible score that you could get for a defense. So, But Zerline's still good.
Yeah, you're gonna start to be like Nick, where your best player is on special teams or defense.
Yeah. I don't want to be like Nick. I'm hoping not to be. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, there was one more. All right, so that brings me... So, I mean, all right, well, we could wrap up the millennial season pretty quickly, but I don't know. What do you have to say? A lot of talk.
A lot of talk. He was the best whatever. Then he became pretty much the worst whatever. I mean, he did beat me on the Marvin Jones catch, so maybe he can, hang his hat on that.
Yeah, that was the highlight. That was the highlight of his season, I think.
That was the high low light. But other than that, it's been. I don't think he really ever one time changed his lineup once.
I don't know.
Maybe once when somebody had a bye, but otherwise he went with the same crew.
I mean, Marvin Jones, he picked him up off the waiver wire. He picked up McKinnon.
I mean, that was pretty late, though.
He picked up McKinnon, though, like when Dalvin Cook went down.
Yeah, but then he kept playing McKinnon and Howard just in and out. It doesn't matter what the status was.
He picked up D. Williams. He made some moves. I mean, none of them panned out, but he made them.
Except for that Amari Cooper 44-point game, I mean, let's just say Millennials didn't make a lot of noise.
No. I mean, he made a lot of noise, but not on the actual field.
He made a lot of noise, but not actually on the field.
I mean, he was the guy. He's an expansion team. He came in, he said, oh, this is an easy league, because I think he won his first game or something. And then...
Oh, yeah, should we start rolling back to week 1 quotes?
And then ends up finishing in last place. So maybe he's a little bit humbled. Humbled by the experience. Typical millennial. Typical millennial, all mouth. No results.
The thing was with millennials, I think maybe not really Dr. Hockey, but millennials and hockey were the two teams that were never in the postseason conversation at any point.
No. But I mean, at least
when teams were 5-5, 4-4, even 3-3. I don't think either of those teams ever reached those milestones.
No, I mean, hockey at least, like, kind of put together a good team towards the end. I mean, he didn't, but he was, I mean, by that point, he was too far gone, like, in record. So it didn't matter, but yeah. But neither of those, nobody ever worried about those two teams. I mean, to your own detriment, by the way, in the Marvin Jones game. And I guess it's my detriment in this game, but yeah, I think this, I would hope that this season was a little bit humbling for him, and that next season he comes in and realizes, oh, maybe these guys can actually play. Maybe the center, which is the place that, to be honest, is one of the most competitive venues on earth. I've never met, I mean, we're all friends and everything else, but I have never met more competitive people in my life. Maybe when you step into that lion's den, you realize maybe you want to play a little bit and not talk as much, because we actually, we're actually pretty competitive people.
Well, he might be in the WrestleMania man camp. His claim to fame is that he beat me and you this season in his 4-9 campaign. Remember when WrestleMania man came up with that? I don't know who he beat. Me and Minor one season.
Yeah, like in 1998.
He was like 2-50.
Yeah.
And that was his claim to fame forever.
Yeah,
so this could be the millennials' claim to fame. I did beat Dave and Keys in my first season going 4-9.
He'll be saying that in 2030 while we're in the nursing home. I beat you in the mouth.
And we'll be like, were you in that season? I don't remember playing that.
Yeah, but in his world, I mean, in Jamel's world, that was like the biggest thing to ever happen to him. Because, I mean, he would bring that up decades later. And none of us remember it. Not a single. I don't remember. I don't know what season he's referring to.
I would almost dig through my garage looking for the paperwork to verify that. I don't remember ever listening to Jamel.
I mean, I believe it. It's credible that he would believe it so, in his bones that I absolutely believe that it's true that he beat all three of us or whatever that one season in the BHL.
He thinks he beat us. Thinks he beat us, but I can't. No. Losing to Jamel in the BHL, I don't remember. No, that would have been more to my devastation than him getting swept.
I mean, it was probably a regular season game. I don't think that he was. I'm sure he didn't sweep you. I'm sure he won one game off of you, me, and Minor or something. Like, that's probably what he's saying. I don't know. Next time
he presented it, he won a championship. he beat two people.
Well,
he won a game.
Yeah, that I know he did not do. He absolutely did not win a center championship. All right, so that wraps up that game and that season, and then I did forget there is another game that took place before we get to the big one, which was Nicky Baby versus the Lightning Rods. This game ultimately didn't matter either. There was at least a chance for the winner to possibly advance, depending on point totals and if the Hagglers lost and if the moons aligned and everything else happened. But none of that worked out. But the loser definitely did get eliminated, and that was Nicky Baby, who lost 132.22 to 85.58. Nicky Baby's team just absolutely fell apart after the Aaron Rodgers injury, and then there was really nothing to say after that. Stafford with 14.88 points, 3 for Emmanuel Sanders, 8.2 from Adams. I mean, Ingram at least got 24.2 points, and Fournette got 16.9. 1.9 from Cook, 4.4 from Deshaun Jackson, 3 from his kicker, and of course his best offensive player. The Jacksonville defense got 12 points, which was almost his best score if it wasn't for Ingram. For the Lightning Rods, Cam Newton, 24.42 points. Des Bryant was 17.1. 5 from Smith-Schuster and 5.2 from Mixon. And then he got 12 from Murray, 13 from Rudolph, 36 from Tyreek Hill, and 13 from Gostkowski. Yeah. I mean, Hill just kept scoring in that game, which is really what gave the Millennials the points that he did from Alex Smith. But yeah, I mean, essentially the Lightning Rods were eliminated when you beat them the week before. I mean, had the Lightning Rods won the game against you, then they could have been the one that was in the playoffs.
It would have been just the reverse.
Yeah, they would have been the ones in the playoffs, and you would have been playing in a largely irrelevant game. But it happened the other way, and this ends up being an irrelevant game. 4.5 points left on the bench for Nick. You just look at his bench lineup. I mean, it's just a litany of an injured reserve roster. He picks up Will Fuller out of the garbage can after Watson goes down. Like, why even bother? You know, T.Y. Yeldon, okay. I mean, the backup to Fournette, fine, whatever. But then Crabtree with 0 points. Reed, who was doubtful.
That's a lot of zeros, Bob.
I know. Terrell Pryor on injured reserve, and he still held on to Aaron Rodgers. Like, what are you doing? You're in a slide. Like, you're falling down a cliff. Why are you holding on to all of these zeros?
Nicky Baby was like, he was ride or die with Aaron Rodgers. He was not even going to leave his roster.
No. I mean, but he had so much space to make some moves or do something. Like, I mean, that is a team that just saw Aaron Rodgers go down and went, fuck it. I've never seen anybody say fuck it more than what Nicky Baby did after Aaron Rodgers went down. Fuck it.
I mean, what did he go on? I think at the point that Aaron Rodgers got injured, he was 4-1.
He was,
he was just a free fall.
He was in second place.
So does that mean he finished 1-7?
Yes. And by the way, his
13. Yeah, so he must have finished 1-7.
Yeah.
Post Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, and last week he played my team, which was pathetic. I think I got 80 points. He got like 60, 50, 50. Like, I mean, like, this team didn't give a fuck about this season after Aaron Rodgers went down. It was like mourning a loved one. He was like, I can't bring myself to possibly play anymore.
I mean, the thing is, Aaron Rodgers went down a long time ago.
I know.
Plenty of opportunities.
I know. I mean, look at all the people that we've never even heard of that have come up since that point and have actually made an impact in the league. And you don't go get any of them? You don't... I mean, what was the last roster move? I'm not saying, like, switching personnel in his lineup. I'm talking about, when was the last acquisition Nicky Baby made?
Maybe his trade with you to get Stafford.
Well, that was immediately after Rodgers went down. If that was his last move, that can't be his last move.
Maybe picking up Fuller out of the garbage can.
And still, that's the same week. Or that was the next week.
Maybe picking up Yeldon, the running back for the Jaguars, maybe.
I'm looking this up. I'm going back. When was the last move that Nicky Baby made? I'm going through all of the transactions. There's like 1 million transactions. I have not seen a single Nicky Baby transaction, and I'm back in November 19th. Still nothing. I don't. November. Nope. Oh, we're almost getting back to October. Nope. Oh, there it is. November 5th. He picked up Fuller.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, November 5th.
Yeah, that's, like you said, that's a team that doesn't give a rat.
I mean, what's that, 30 days ago? 32 days ago?
I paid my $65. I don't give a rat's ass about it.
Yep. All right, so that's well, that's that game. All right, and then so I guess that clearly wraps up Nicky Baby's season.
I think he wrapped up his own season about 8 weeks ago.
As far as the lightning rods, I mean, this was just kind of a team that was always like, meh. I don't know. I mean...
Well, I gotta tell you, I've got a history with the lightning rods. Week 1 of this season, Gillisley scored 3 touchdowns against me and basically sunk me. I started 0-1. That stuck in my craw. But even going back before that, the lightning rods, some people, I guess, don't remember or weren't around for the 2015 season, the last time the Hagglers were in town, or in the league. went on a horrid 0-5 start. Horrid. And then scratched and clawed my way back to 4-5. And what team came along and doused my playoff hopes? The Lightning Rods. Yes, you, Gaten Casimir. You probably forgot that game was inconsequential. Well, it felt satisfying to get that W. To knock that team out of the playoffs. Presumably knocked them out. I don't know if they still would have made it if they... No, they wouldn't have, right? That was it.
No, they would have, because they would have been 7-6. You would have been 6-7. And they would have made it for you. Well, I don't know. Well, Tillett might have made it. Maybe. I'm not sure, but you definitely wouldn't have. They had a chance to knock you out again. I could say that for certain.
Once again, we were not going to let that happen.
Yeah, but other than the Lightning Rod's history with you, I mean, and that first game with Gillisley, you're right. I mean, what did this team do? I don't really remember anything about this team this season. Was there ever?
Other than they had the two Bryants, Martavius and Dez.
Yeah, but they wouldn't play them both.
They didn't make a lot of noise, but they were what, 6 and 7? So they were always like kind of there.
Yeah, that's what I would say about them. They were They were there. I mean, like, they were a team like you couldn't like snooze on. Like, you had to actually put together a lineup when you would play them. But you weren't petrified, and you weren't like, oh, this is a cakewalk. You were just like, oh, I'm playing the Lightning Rods this week. Okay. I mean, I don't know. They just didn't. They were just the most meh team. They never really threatened. I mean, they would always hover around that, that 8th, 9th position, maybe 10th, they weren't the worst. I mean, they weren't the Millennials or House Targaryen, which you knew was like the battle for the basement all season long, where you could at least be like, okay, those teams are horrid. They weren't like, they never had a good record. They were never like just mediocre, but always hanging in the playoffs. No, they were always just hovering around 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Let's just say they flew off the radar the entire regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what moves they made. Did they make? I mean, Smith-Schuster, that was one.
Mm-hmm. For a couple of weeks that panned out, but lately, he's been quiet.
Yeah. I mean, he got suspended also in that game, but I don't know. Like, nothing. Like, okay, they existed. They were one of the 12. And look, I'm just saying that for this season. I mean, like, in the past, in past seasons, they've actually been really good. They've threatened, to almost make the championship. I mean, for that one season, I think the season that you were in, he was a beast. He was, I think he was in 4th place. I think that might have been the season that Shauna dominated, but I mean, he was definitely a threatening team that year. And this team, it was never like, he was always like, meh. I don't know. That's just my perception. I'm sure to him, they were his whole world.
Just a game, he made it to a game within a game of making the playoffs. So.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the last game of last week, which was the most exciting game of last week and probably all season. I called you on Monday night to say, are you watching this Nick and Jamie versus Dave's Secret Crush game? And you're like, why are you bothering me, Harbatkin? And then you looked at the score and you're like, oh, man, this is exciting. So,
now, there's a reason why this game was ridiculous. I mean, that Monday night game between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, everybody cashed in points on that one. That was just amazing. Fantasy football-wise, that was a bonanza of points for everybody. And to have Antonio Brown go up against Le'Veon Bell, whew, what a premier matchup. And this game did not disappoint.
No, and so and then there were huge implications in this game. So this determined a lot of playoff seeding. So neither of these teams were not going to make the playoffs. Obviously, Eugene had long clinched a playoff spot, and Nick and Jamie, just by virtue of the amount of points that they had, were going to make a playoff spot. But this was going to be the difference as to whether or not they were going to be in 4th place or 6th place. If they won, they would have been in 4th, and if they lost, they would have been in 6th. And for Eugene, which was even bigger, if he won, he was going to get the bye in 2nd seed. If he lost, he was going to be in 3rd seed and playing the following week. And by the way, like Eugene's team this week he actually has some tough matchups. I mean, he's not playing because he's on the bye, but I mean this could have, had he lost this game, this could have been, a landmine for him this week because of what his matchups are this week. But he ends up avoiding it. I mean, in the closest game in center history. So 118.88 to 118.72. So I'll let you describe, because like we were on the phone with each other talking about this, and then that's when Tillett was texting us about the rules and this and that. But so I'll let you describe how the game kind of unfolded from the 4th quarter about.
Well, it was the Monday night game, so I don't know how many people had players playing in it, but if you weren't there to see this, so Nick and Jamie were lining up for a surefire. Okay, first of all, Le'Veon Bell had the last drive, so the Whalers was kind of like chipping away, getting points here and there, but Le'Veon Bell actually went for a loss of a couple points. So it was 118 to 115 before the final field goal, and it was 118.88 to 115.72. And Nick and Jamie had the kicker squared away for a 43-yard field goal, which Boswell easily hits, right? And that would have made it so anything up to 39 yards is 3 points. So that would have given them 118 as well, but they were at 43 yards at the initial spot, which is a 4-point field goal, anything 40 or more. So that would have given them 119, and with no time left on the clock, they would have squeaked by Eugene, which would have put them in 4th, and Eugene, playing the next week and not getting the bye. Well, lo and behold, the Cincinnati Bungles idiot jumps off sides. Now, this moves the ball from the 43 to the 38. Which puts it inside 40, so now they only get 3 points for the field goal, which, of course, the kicker hits. So that's the final score. Instead of a 1-point win, they get screwed on an offside. Now, what are the odds? So first of all, like I was saying, the ball has to be placed anywhere from, like, the 44 inward, right? Yeah, because even if it's at the 45, then you get an offside penalty. So anywhere between the 40, the 45, and
the 44.
That's
it's not
the outer perimeter, right?
Well, it has to be a 44-yard field goal, so it would actually be placed because it's 17 yards at the 20, whatever it is. But like a 44-yard field goal there's like a 4-point to a 40-yard field goal. There's like a 4-yard range in which the ball could be placed. That something like that.
So first of all, for that. Think about this miraculous scenario. For the ball to be a 4-point play, it's got to be placed, like we said, so like anywhere from the 28 backwards, right, to get 4 points.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's 28, 38, 8 and 7 is 15. Okay. So you have that much room to work with. And then to have the player also jump off sides, to move it into 3-point range, that just doesn't happen.
Well, and then on top of that, so also mind you, so most of this game, Eugene kind of had a lead. He was up by a decent amount, and then I think right when I called you was actually when they just threw a touchdown to Antonio Brown, because like Antonio Brown had a decent amount of points, but he was still trailing by 8 around that. It was like 115 to like 107, 108 or something like that. And then Antonio Brown gets the touchdown reception where he's like it's between two guys. He's knocked over like on a helmet-to-helmet hit, but he holds on. He catches it, and then suddenly the game is like 115 to 1, whatever. And then So on then Pittsburgh got the ball back, and it was like Le'Veon Bell, like they kept rushing a little. Like I think, like wasn't there one pass? Like there was one pass to Antonio Brown which changed around, but Le'Veon Bell ran for he got like a 26-yard reception, and then he ran, and then he lost 2 yards on his last 2 plays. So it brought it with
and
it.
That's what set everything up so close. So the stage was set for Nick and Jamie to win the game.
Right.
Because the last couple carries for Bell went for losses.
Right.
So you're like, oh man, they're inside. So they had to, and that's another thing miraculous for Nick and Jamie. The only way they were getting any more points with that much time left, there was like 4 seconds left, was a field goal. So they had 3 points to work with.
Right.
And Eugene actually put himself just inside, with a 3-point margin.
Yeah, because
Le'Veon Bell had just gotten 1 more yard.
Right.
He would have won regardless.
Right. Le'Veon Bell actually cost them a couple yards, moved them back far enough that it put the field goal into the 4-point range.
Right. So not only did Eugene lose points on the rushing yardage,
right,
his loss of yardage made it a 4-point field goal for Nick and Jamie, handing them the win, basically. And then out of the blue comes this idiot, Cincinnati, who jumps offside. I could not believe what I was watching, and that moves the field goal to a 38-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. I mean, all the right things had to go right. The planets aligned for Nick and James, or for Eugene, right? Because he did everything to lose that game in the final moments. It was just ridiculous.
I mean,
it was absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, we were talking about you talk about things in the center, like historically in the center. I mean, the thing that brings me back to is the Wang Chung game in the BFL back in season 1 of the BFL, which just tells you. I mean, that was what was that? 97, literally 20 years ago. Like more than 20 years ago. I mean, to even find anything even remotely comparable in the center. But that was but that was a game where it was me and Miner playing in the last week of the season, or the last game of the season. Winter got in.
Madden 96 or 97, whatever. So we're going all the way back to Genesis.
Yeah, this is Sega Genesis, Madden, BFL, first season of the BFL. And there weren't that many teams. I think it was you, me, Akapinti, Heppelstein, LeVar, so what was that, 5 teams or something like that? So 4 made it into the playoffs. So 4 and 5 were playing each other, and that was me and Miner. And I had, the clock was running down. I managed to get it within field goal range. All I needed to do was kick the field goal, and it was like a chip shot. I think it was like a 30-yard field goal or something like that. And all I have to do is hit this in, walk away with the win, and get into the playoffs. Right?
Patriots had this player called Eugene Chung.
No, it was the Niners. I think I was playing as the Niners.
Well, Niners was Barfman, Harris Barfman.
Oh, right.
I think you were the Patriots.
I might have been. Yeah. And yeah. So I go to kick the field goal, line up, kick it. It's all good. But no, there's a flag on the play. Holding on Chung. Okay. Move me back another 10 yards. It was still, it's no longer a chip shot, but it's, 39-yard field goal or whatever it was. Totally makeable. Kick the field goal, goes in again, and there's another flag on the play. Chung again. So now this is 2 holding calls, 20 yards back. Now it's like a 49-yard field goal or something like that. Still just need this one stupid thing to go in, and I make the playoffs. He kicks the field goal. It goes wide. Miner wins, and I'm eliminated from the playoffs. So, honestly, this had the feeling of that kind of, so historically in all of the center things that we've done, this is the closest to that I've ever seen. And, yeah. I mean, the difference is that I guess both of these teams made it into the playoffs, but, in terms of historic center games, I mean, this is certainly up there. I mean, it's not number 1. I mean, the Matt Sundin game.
99 times out of 100, Nick and Jamie need this field goal to beat Eugene, and the kicker misses it, and Eugene wins.
Yeah.
For them to still get the kick and lose, that never happened. That never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is literally the closest game in Center Fantasy Football history. 0.16.
0.16 point differential.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And with that, Nick and Jamie goes to 6th place. They were going to play this week anyway, but their opponent, instead of being the Hagglers, now is the St. Louis Blues, and Dave's Secret Crush avoids having to play this week with some difficult matchups and gets the bye in the 2nd seed. So,
I don't know if they would have played either. I think their opponent would have been Minor.
Maybe. Who?
Nick and Jamie was the one team that no matter what, I could not play until the end.
Yeah, that's right. No, but it would have been... You would have played Minor, I think, no matter what? Is that the case? I don't remember.
No, because I would have been 6, and then I would have played...
You would have played the Blues. You would have played the Blues, and they would have played Minor, right?
Yeah.
Right. But either way, changes it for Eugene, who now gets to sit at home washing his tights. All right. So that brings us to this week's games. Now, as you could all tell from the upload time and whatnot, we've already had the Thursday night game go on, so it's been completed, and we could actually talk about the results of that game and the impact of it. But so let's start off. We're not going to talk about this consolation bracket, are we? Nobody gives a fuck. House Targaryen leads Nikki Baby 14.8 to 13.2. I mean, Ingram got 13. Julio Jones got 14.8. That's all you need to know. Nobody cares. And then the other game was, the special team, 49.7 points. It's the Millennials 0, with Breeze getting 22. And Michael Thomas with 27.0 points. Right now he's a 73-point favorite in the Who Gives a Shit bracket. Okay, let's move to the games that actually people care about. Let's start with the St. Louis Blues versus Nick and Jamie. Now, these are two reasonably hot teams facing against each other in this matchup. The Blues, by virtue of that Nick and Jamie loss, get to try to avenge it. Because this is the team that could have given them the bye if they would have just gotten that extra yard on the field goal. But instead, they end up having to play them. So now the Blues looking to avenge having to lose to Eugene and no doubt hear it in the office. So at this point, Nick and Jamie have had no players play. And the Blues have had one, which is Devontae Freeman, who has 15.10 points. The original projection, dead even. It was 122.49 to 122.53. I mean, that's like 0.4 of a point difference in the original projection. And to be honest with you, it's not that much further after this first game. The Blues have a 51 to 49% edge. The live projection is 123.96 for the Blues to 122.49 for Nick and Jamie. So this one's going to be a really close game. All right, so you got Phillip Rivers versus Washington and Tom Brady at Miami. Those are, those are good matchups for both of those quarterbacks, to be honest with you. Brady on the Monday night game. This might be another Monday night. This is going to be another Monday night, late night watching to see who makes it through. Then you got Keenan Allen versus Washington and Antonio Brown versus Baltimore. So I certainly give the edge to Allen in that matchup. Mike Evans versus Detroit and Alshon Jeffrey at the Rams. In terms of matchups, I'd give Evans the edge, but in terms of just players, I'm giving it to Jeffrey. I mean, Mike Evans is not going to do crap. So I certainly give the edge to Jeffrey there. Deion Lewis at Miami. Once again, Nick and Jamie reliant on that Monday night game, as opposed to Lamar Miller versus San Francisco. So that's a pretty good matchup for him. As we discussed, Devontae Freeman already has 15.10 points versus New Orleans. And Jay Williams of Green Bay at Cleveland. I think I'm going to give the edge to Freeman there. Then Brate versus O. Howard. So 2 Tampa Bay tight ends
now let's talk about O.J. Howard. Yeah, well, Rob Gronkowski suspended for 1 game.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nick and Jamie had an inconvenient timing on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they both have Tampa Bay tight ends in this game? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
Well, it was hard for Nick and Jamie to go out and get a premier tight end on such short notice.
I know that's a devastating suspension for them to have that happen this week. I mean, you've been talking about how great Nick and Jamie is for weeks now.
Oh
but,
my goodness!
But this might be the break that's needed to not have them, with Gronk out. I mean, in the first
place, that's their twofers right there. That's Brady to Gronk all day long.
Yeah,
they feasted off of that this season, along with Antonio Brown. And now you take Gronk out of the equation. Ugh.
Yeah, that might spell some trouble for them. Then they picked up Giovanni Bernard, and they're playing him against the Blues, who have Goodwin. I don't know. I mean, Bernard did fine last week. I mean, how many points did he get? I remember one.
Just picked up Goodwin. Well, Bernard did fine. Well, Joe Mixon is out with a concussion, so
yeah,
that was a good pickup. So these guys, like I said, they're a very savvy head coach, which is ironic because it's obviously a touchy spot for Lombardi when I bring up coaching. So I'll keep that, very low key. Nick and Jamie are a very savvy head coach, and they picked up the Los Angeles defense. I mean, they've really been doing well.
Yeah. Interesting that he's going with the New England defense, which has actually improved by a lot after that first month. So, and then you got...
Well, he's also got Baltimore playing Pittsburgh. That's brutal.
Yeah, with Antonio Brown. I mean, then you have the kicker also. Maybe get that extra point this week versus Suckup at Arizona. I don't know. This one's a really tough game to call.
Mm-hmm. What happened to Zach Ertz? He just fell off the planet the last 3 weeks. He's not even in the starting lineup.
Hasn't he been injured? Isn't there an injury?
Ever since that injury, he just... I don't know.
He was officially limited in Thursday's practice. The Eagles themselves tweeted that Ertz had cleared the league's concussion protocol, but then backtracked a few hours later. Either way, he's on track to clear the protocol, and barring a setback, will be out there Week 14 against the Rams. That could be huge if he could get Zach Ertz there with Nick and Jamie having to go with O.J. Howard. I would certainly hold on to Brate to make sure that they can't get him, but I'm gonna say that the Blues are gonna win this game. I think it's gonna be a late night on Monday night to determine it, but which it naturally would be because you have Tom Brady and Dion Lewis going in that game. But I just think that the Gronk suspension is too big a blow at this point of the year.
I'm gonna pose a different kind of question. Going into the Monday night game with Brady and Lewis, how much of a lead for Lombardi is safe? Like, what would he have to be up by for you to say, all right, even with Brady going and another player, this one's over? What's Brady's, ceiling?
I'd say Brady's ceiling is 30. I mean, look, last week he got 9. But then, generally you look 29, 31, 28, 19, 22, 21, whatever. I'd say 30 is his ceiling. I don't think he'll get that, but I'm saying that's his ceiling. I think. I mean, I could be wrong. It's still Brady, whatever. For Dion Lewis, he's average. I mean, 9.2, 12, 18, 17, 7, 9, 11, whatever. So, I mean, I think that his ceiling is 15. So I would say that Lombardi would have to have a 45 to 50 point lead to say, okay, you got this one. Going into the Monday night game. I mean, I'm not saying that if he has less than a 45 to 50 point lead that he doesn't win the game, but I'm saying if he wants to feel pretty safe, okay, I'll watch, but, I think I got this. You need at least a 45 to 50 point lead going into that game.
Now, that's 45 points without, because he has the New England defense, which can get him points.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's
not
true.
Considering them?
That's true. I wasn't considering them. So no. So then lower it. Well, how much is the New England defense going to get him? What have they been getting lately? 13, 17, 9, 13, 11. Let's tack off 10 from that, because say they can get 10. They're playing Miami. There's going to be some turnovers. Okay, so 35-point lead? Or I'll say a 35 to 40 point lead. You kind of feel secure, I think.
All right.
But if it's a shootout, I mean, the defense can go down. I mean, you want to get into that 40-45. I mean, I don't know. I'm telling you, this game is going...
If I was Lombardi, I'd be a little... This is Tom Brady we're talking about.
Against Miami, yes. That's true. That's true. I'm still going with Lombardi. I think he wins this game. I think this is Nick and Jamie's most vulnerable. I think if Nick and Jamie can pull off a win here, watch out. And, of course, it's going to be me that has to watch out. Because
Are you saying this to yourself?
they're rearing down the pike looking at me if they're the ones who win this game.
You're going to be praying for Matt Lombardi to bump this team up. Because then you get... Well, everybody's calling a Choice Hagler matchup. Oh, the Haglers, they suck. But Nick and Jamie with this...
Well...
you never know what they're going to do. They're like a ferocious animal.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no chance I can play Lombardi. So, if Lombardi wins, he plays Eugene no matter what. Because he's the third seed and Eugene's the second seed. So, if Lombardi wins, those two are playing each other, and it comes... And then the 1603ers will play the winner of the minor Haglers game. Which, Miner's a dangerous team too. But I would like to get that shark of Nick and Jamie out, and then let Eugene and Lombardi in the semifinals, fight to the death, and then that's what I personally would like. And then whoever emerges. But yeah, I'm rooting for the Blues in this game. You rarely say that in the playoffs of who you want to...
15 points for Freeman's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Evans might be a weak spot. I mean, what has Evans done? Has he done anything? I mean, I know last week he didn't. 13.
The entire Buccaneers roster is just...
Yeah, I know. Has he got anybody else? Yeah, because what are we talking about? We're talking about a... I mean, he can move...
If Lombardi wants to come full circle, he can actually scoop up Doug Martin, who's available.
Yeah, there you go. That would be interesting.
Free agency, that would be an ironic twist.
That would be ironic. Yeah, I mean, he could do that. I mean, he could move up Goodwin to wide receiver 2, take Evans out, and then play one of the running backs. I mean, he has Collins, right? Didn't Collins got 23 points or whatever? If I'm Lombardi, this is what I would...
He's great, but he's got a tough Steeler matchup, though.
I still think that he could do fine. I mean, look at Collins' numbers the last few... well, I mean, I guess he's played shitty teams. Green Bay, Houston, and Detroit. Yeah, true. But, I mean, he had 23, 13, and 17. I mean, I'm saying it this, because you're going into the playoffs, you want to ride the hot hand. What I would do, first of all, I'd hope that Ertz plays, because that really boosts your offensive points, and I really would make him the favorite if Ertz can go. But on top of that, I'd move Goodwin up to wide receiver 2, take Evans out, and put in Collins at the flex. And then I think he's got this game. I don't know for sure, but I mean, look, Nick and Jamie has the suspension of Gronkowski. They got Robert Woods is doubtful. Peterson is out. I mean, what's going on with Rashard Matthews? I don't even know. And C.J. Anderson, does he even have a pulse? Is he still on the team? He got 15 last game. Look at that. 1.2 the week before, and a bunch of single digits mixed in there. But yeah. No, that's what I would say Lombardi should do. I think this is Lombardi's game to lose. I think that this is the most vulnerable that Nick and Jamie is going to be all playoffs long. And I think that he really needs to come through for himself and the 03ers.
Yeah, Goodwin was a great pickup. With Garoppolo starting in San Francisco, it looks like the two of them are connecting.
At Houston.
That's actually a really good, savvy, a Coach One move.
Yeah, I know.
Matt Lombardi, we'll give him a shameless Coach One plug.
Yeah. So what are you going with here? I've made my pick.
With the Gronk injury, I gotta tell you, that makes this a hell of a lot. It's a totally different football game. And couple that, Adrian Peterson is also injured too. So at one point, Nick and Jamie just looked like a chunker, and now they've got to deal with some injuries at the wrong time. And even Robert Woods was just like, he had a monster 37 points the 1 week against the Giants, 23 before that, and then he had 16. And the last two games, he's got 0. He's been injured. So Nick and Jamie, this season is all about when you get hot. I mean, they've managed to roll to a 6-7 record and still make the playoffs, but their superstar lineup right now is like injured.
And Antonio Brown.
This is Lombardi's opening.
And Antonio Brown is playing Baltimore, which is a tough matchup.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup, and I'm actually going to go with Matt Lombardi as well.
Shocker! Look at that, Lombardi. Way to go! You got two people that think you're going to win.
I think so. This week, I think Matt Lombardi proves he's a head coach one. This is his week to prove it.
And I think it.
Pickup,
and I got to be honest. Well, yeah, and I got to be honest. Not only because I don't want to face Nick and Jamie, which is absolutely true, but in addition to that, I mean, I kind of want to see a St. Louis Blues versus a Eugene semifinal. I mean, that's exciting. An inter-office semifinal against the final. I mean, how exciting will the trash talking be that week? I mean, if that happens, you two have got to make some time to be on the show next week. I want to hear that.
Well, first of all, Matt Lombardi is he's in a furnace right now, not just on the hot seat. So he can't afford to lose to Nick and Jamie because Eugene will ride him at the office. Like, you didn't even make it. You didn't even make it to play me. You suck so bad. Okay, so he can't lose that game. Then he certainly can't actually lose to Eugene, right? Because forget it then. Because Eugene will just forget it. It'll just be a hellish nightmare of an environment if he actually loses to Eugene. So he can't lose before he gets to Eugene. Because he can't even make it to me, or he gets to hear the I beat your ass, trash. Either way, it's got to be like Lombardi right now must be tossing and turning. Like, what's he gonna do? He can't lose to Nick and Jamie because we've never seen the end of it, and he can't lose to Eugene because it's even worse.
I mean, he can beat Eugene, and then he can rub it in for the year.
He has to. That's his only recourse. He has to.
We must succeed.
It's a must win. He has to win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other center situation where your fellow league rival works in the same building as you. Except for you and the millennials. But that's not even like...
Or me and Doc...
4-9, there's not much trash talking going on.
Well, there was the year that me and Dr. Hockey played each other in the finals. That was intense, although it's still across the country, kind of, even though whatever. But I mean, but me and Hockey have a more. We don't really rub it into each other. We're actually much more methodical in our. We don't really trash talk. It's very different than I think that any relationship with Eugene would be. I can't even imagine what that.
I gotta tell you, we've seen glimpses into the psyche of both coaches this season at different points, Eugene and Lombardi, and I gotta tell you, that inside the office there's a lot of trash talking going on, and it affects the other player big time.
You think? What do you think Eugene's doing? Who do you think he's rooting for? You think he's rooting for
Oh, no question he's rooting for Nick and Jamie.
You think?
He wants to rub it in. He can't wait to rub it in Lombardi's face. You couldn't even make it to play me.
Yeah.
You're lucky, because what I would have done to you with Le'Veon Bell, I would have had my way with you the way I wanted to. And Lombardi's like, F you, mother effer.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. I view Eugene. I mean, some people I would view as like, I want to face him. I want to take him on myself. I feel Eugene would just relish.
Hell no, Eugene. He's unscrupulous. Like, you didn't even make it to me. He'd love to kick people while they're down.
Yeah. I see that being the case.
And that's going to be the talk all the way up until the next season. So that's got to be. Lombardi's in a very, very tough place right now. He has to win.
Yeah, you must succeed, Lombardi. For your own psyche, for your own health, for your own mental health. I hope that you at least. Because then he has to. All right. Well, that's that game, and then if the two of them are playing each other, definitely you two should try to make some time to get on the program next week, because I would love to hear you two trash talk each other. And frankly, you're invited on anyway, even if you don't, because I'd love to hear Eugene trash talk him anyway. So yeah, make some time next week. Let's do this. All right. Let's move on to the other game, which is the Hackettstown Haggler versus Black Ice Dynasty, 4 versus 5. Unlike the other game, which only had one player playing, this one actually had a significant amount of players playing. So right now, as we go into, we finish the first game, the Hackettstown Hagglers already have a 20.30 to 15.7 point lead, with only the Hagglers only playing one player and Miner playing 2, kind of. As the kicker, Matt Bryant, got 10 points, but Kamara, one of Miner's unbelievably best players, goes down with an injury. 5.7 points he had before he went out. So that is, I mean, like, if you look at Kamara's numbers, oh my God. Like,
anybody who has seen Kamara play this season, that guy is a stud. Like, he's probably eclipsed Todd Gurley for, like, MVP of the league. Like, Gurley got off to an amazing start. Kamara is, like, the real deal. I mean, you look at his numbers the last, how many weeks? So I don't even know where to be. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 5 weeks, the lowest he's gotten is 24 points. I mean, he ripped off 29, 36 2 weeks ago, 36 points, 25, 24, 31, and then, I mean, pedestrian 16, 15, and 11. And then prior to that, another 25. This guy is beastly. Kudos to LeVar Miner picking up that guy. That's ridiculous. This guy's just been ridiculous.
Yeah, but he ends up going down with an injury early on, so it was like the worst case scenario for Black Ice Dynasty, because, you know, if he gets injured before the game, then it's all right. You put in somebody else to replace him, but this one, it happens right away, early in the game. So we already played him. He's stuck with his points, and he freezes at 5.7 points. So that is tough. That is a tough break for LeVar Miner. For the Hackettstown Hagglers, you're actually telling me an interesting story about Sanu playing tonight, which feel free to share with the rest of the league.
Yeah, well, here in Hackettstown Hagglerville, we're just chilling, and I forgot it was Thursday night, so then a colleague at work says, "Oh, we got the game tonight," and I freeze up, because at this point it's 8:22 at night. So I just run over, and I've got Robbie Anderson injured and Jaquiz Rogers in there. So I am able to sneak in Sanu, but Jaquiz Rogers has to stay because I couldn't get in Tevin Coleman, who I wanted to get in. Well, it turns out that was the move to make, because from the bench, as you can see, Coleman with a paltry 3.2 points would have been a nightmare. And that actually would have let LeVar really back into it early on, because 3.2 is even less than Kamara with a concussion. He got a concussion immediately, and you can't even beat that? You can't even beat 5.7 points. Pathetic. All right, so you're out of here. So he's on the bench with 3.2. So Sanu was the good play with 20 points. And then LeVar's kicker actually hit a huge 50-yard field goal, in that game to give him 10 points. I mean, it could be 20 to 10. So his kicker came out with 10. Kamara's the big story here. So if you've seen LeVar's scores this season, it's an extremely volatile lineup. Melvin Gordon, he's playing Josh Gordon, who hasn't played since 2014. This will be his second game back, so, he's not exactly, battle-tested this season. That's a bold move. And then he just picked up Anderson, the Texans tight end, who's done some stuff. So that's a savvy move. But he still has another weapon in McCaffrey. I don't think he's going to get knocked out in the first quarter with a concussion. But if you've seen LeVar this season, he still has A.J. Green, which blew it up against the Steelers. But LeVar's kind of like, if his players all blow it up, he's obscene. He gets 180 points. But even when his players don't the following week, he usually relies on Kamara to fill those gaps. There was the week that A.J. Green got thrown out for wrestling the choke slam on Jalen Ramsey of the Jaguars. So he had no quarterback, no wide receiver one, and he still put up huge points because of Kamara. Now you have 5 points from Kamara, so the rest of the team has really got to step up.
Yeah, so right now, and I can't really go on the projection too much. So the original projection was 133 to 92.
Before this game started, I was a 78 to 22 underdog. That's obscene. And most of those points were 24 points slated for Kamara.
Yeah.
So that just shows you how big this is. As a coach, you need to look at this and be like, okay, this changes some things right now. That was huge. I was expecting a lot more points out of Kamara.
Yeah, and then so the live projection right now is 116.36 to 101.36 in favor of LeVar, but that's without you having a running back one in there. So that's first of all. Second of all...
Yeah, but if you refresh it, I just put one in. I just threw one in there. I threw in Davis from Seattle.
All right, so your live projection is 110. So it's a 55 to 45% underdog you are. It's a close game. Now, also mind you, this is 4th and 5th. You're both 7 and 6. Really close game here. And then, so, all right, so this gets down to matchups. Minor really does have a lot of weapons on his team. I got to be honest with you. Funches, T.Y. Hill. This is just his bench. Marquise Lee, Burkhead. These are all good play. He's managed to put together a pretty good team. And then you add Kamara to that. That's the reason why he's been scoring so high lately. So like we said, Nick and Jamie was vulnerable this week because of the Gronk suspension. I think LeVar might be vulnerable this week because of the Kamara injury. So this is the kind of thing that the Hagglers definitely have to take advantage of if they have any intention of making it couldn't have gone better for you up to this point. So these are the kind of breaks that you need if you want to win these wild card games. And these are why these are wild card games.
Yeah, but it's still amazingly early, and Bryant did do some to take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, he did.
Can you imagine if he just had 6 points?
Yeah, no, it would be. But he's. Look. But anyway, but the thing about LeVar is he gets players that get 36, 40 points on the good weeks, and they get 5 on the bad weeks. So I don't think that 5 points from Bryant would make the difference. LeVar is, like I said, he's feast or famine. And if he's going to feast this week, he's going to feast, and that 5 points is going to make a difference. And if he's going to be famine, he's going to do horridly. And it's not going to matter either. So, I could be wrong. It could come down to a field goal at the end and, less than 3 points, in which case I will, I'll have been wrong. But, it's generally not been the pattern. But looking at the matchup, so you have Mariota at Arizona. That's a pretty good matchup for him. Mariota's been fine. He's been, he's been hovering around 20. He had 11 the week before against Indianapolis, but Other than that, he's been hovering around 20 for the Hagglers. Josh McCown has been surprisingly good, especially the last 2 weeks. 33 points last week, 31 points the week before that. And the week before that was against Carolina. I mean, McCown has really been a good pickup. I mean, like, the fact that you had Deshaun Watson, go down. I mean, like, who was... I mean, you want to talk about a team that suffered from injuries all season long. I mean, that's the Hagglers, but, you had the David Johnson injury, you had the Watson injury, but you've recovered from both. I mean, like, fortunately, it wasn't, like, mid-game in a wild card game yet. So, you at least had time to recover from some of this stuff. And you have. And look, McCown was a great pickup.
I mean, he's been getting just a shade under Watson. He's been 10 points just, under 10, 10 points less than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but I mean, and to think that that's McCown. I mean, that's great. And he's playing against Denver this week, or at Denver. I'm gonna give the edge to McCown in that matchup. So then you move on to AJ Green versus Diggs. Diggs is at Carolina. AJ Green versus Chicago. I'm gonna give the edge to AJ Green in that matchup.
You have to.
I mean, is Diggs gonna do anything?
I don't know. Him and Thielen. Thielen needs to slip on a banana peel, and then I'm set.
Yeah, but Thielen last week, I mean, to be honest with you, what did he get? 9 points? He didn't do anything either. And Carolina's a difficult game. So yeah.
You know what? I do have good news coming up, though. Have you ever seen on Monday Morning Countdown or with the ESPN crew, once somebody gets their stupid ass interview piece, they usually have a horrid rest of the season. And this week, Case Keenum and Thielen sit down with whoever to discuss their amazing season. That's the end of it. I'm telling you right now, when you get your piece, like when I was 2015 when I played, guess who got his piece? Stephon Diggs. The amazing Vikings receiver. He didn't do shit after that. So watch out. After this Sunday, you're going to see Thielen's going to tank it. Because that's when people go down the toilet after they get their spot on ESPN Team Day. Sunday countdown. Ooh, Adam Thielen's just been amazing this season. What's your secret? And that's the end of your season.
Well, I certainly hope that's not the case.
Kareem Hunt had his, if you recall, and where is he now? I think you missed that little piece.
I did.
The Chiefs' Kareem Hunt is so amazing. What's his secret? Well, what's been his secret the last 6 weeks? Nothing. His secret was not going on ESPN.
Well, we'll see. I certainly hope that's not the case.
Mark my words, anybody listening to this podcast, watch this Sunday's piece on Adam Thielen and Case Keenum, and then watch what happens as they tank it for the rest of the real-life season. It certainly affects fantasy.
Well, I hope that's not the case. But we'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe you know. Maybe you know something.
All the
time. All right. So does that? But does that bode well for Diggs, or does that just mean Minnesota falls? Because didn't you say Keenum was going to be? He was interviewed on that piece too.
Both of them, yeah. Both of them are going to go down.
Yeah. So Keenum is screwed at this point. Which means that Diggs is screwed. So it doesn't help you.
And I already threw Bridgewater in the trash can, so even if he comes in, it doesn't help me at all.
That's true. Either way, what you're saying is you need AJ Green to be interviewed.
He should. Yeah, we need AJ Green to show up on the piece. He needs to photo bomb the
session. But either way, I think I'm going to go with Green having the advantage in this matchup.
Stephon Diggs has not done anything. I mean, I don't understand it. He's a superstar. He's so fast, and he's just whatever. We'll just throw it to Thielen every down. Doesn't matter if he's quadruple covered, whatever.
And right now, I mean, currently Robbie Anderson is questionable, which is why he's not in there as the wide receiver one.
Yeah, we're going to be following that very closely. You better believe it.
So if Anderson can go, because I think he tweaked his hamstring in the practice, so you think you're going to put in Anderson if he can go and get twofers in Denver?
Well, that's our plan. I mean, that's we've been riding that for a while now. And the week that I sat Robbie Anderson, he had like 6 catches for 146 yards. I'm done doubting him.
Yeah.
Now he's injured, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes, then I think that matchup certainly becomes a lot closer between A.J. Green and Anderson, because I do think they could put up the points. But it's also a question of how, is he able to go for the full game, even if he plays. So, I don't know. Sanu, great game. I mean, he's projected to get 11 points. He ends up getting 20, so really good there for him, going against Josh Gordon, who is going versus Green Bay. Gordon, in his first game back, got 12.5 points. I mean, I watched part of that game last week at San Diego. I mean, the Browns are terrible, and, they stopped going to Coleman altogether. So the Browns clearly only see one wide receiver at all on the field. Like, I mean, Coleman used to be the guy who, like you would think there would be multiple targets. Like, all right, well, maybe spread it out. Do something. No, I think they're going to only go to Gordon like they did last week. But I would think that the Redskins are going to go like, hey, maybe we should put some people on Gordon. And then they can't do anything.
See. So, yeah, he had 11 targets. Holy mackerel, a lot when he first came back.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about forcing some 11 targets on his first. I only had 4 catches, though, so hopefully, he gets better as weeks go on, but hopefully not this week. Hopefully he gets better for Lamar next week.
I don't see Gordon doing that well, and I think that Sanu's 20 points is going to hold up much better than whatever Gordon's going to get. I could be wrong, but it's against Green Bay, sorry. But I still think Green Bay will put, everybody on him and shut him down.
Now, conversely, had I benched Sanu, I would be devastated right now. Like, you're basically giving the game away. Was Kamara injured?
Yeah. Yep. All right. So then Gordon versus Drake. Now, normally I would give Gordon the edge, but Drake has actually been pretty good lately. Last couple of weeks, so he got 23 last week, 11.7 the week before that. There was a week in between against Tampa Bay where he only got 2.4, but before that it was 17 and 16 points when he came in. I mean, he's been solid lately. And obviously Gordon has been good, but 14 points last week, 11 points the week before, 14 the week before, 9 the week before that. I mean, he hasn't really been blowing it up. I mean, ever since the Chargers have kind of gone on their run, it seems that they've relied more on Keenan Allen and their passing game than they have on Gordon, which has actually slowed his numbers down a little bit, which might give you a slight advantage with Drake. I don't know for sure. I mean, I think that's shockingly, on paper it doesn't seem like an even matchup at all, but I think that actually could pan out to be somewhat of an even matchup and even somewhat maybe of an advantage for Drake. Although Washington has a terrible run defense. I remember seeing them in person, so that might not be the case, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Melvin Gordon, like you said, earlier in the season, he was getting 30 plus in back-to-back games. Like, he was definitely the focal point of the offense. He had 34 and 36. And then he had an off week with 5, but then he had 20 again. But lately, the last 6 weeks, it seems like he's cooled down the last 5 weeks. And it's been Rivers slinging the football all over the field. So they've gotten away from the running game a little bit, but we'll see if that affects Lamar at all. I mean, Drake's case, he's benefiting from an injury to Damian Williams, who's out with a shoulder injury. So there's really nobody else in Miami, which, it's just sheer volume of touches is keeping him afloat. But, that's actually turns out to be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah. And right now, so it's Kamara. We've already talked about his 5.7 points. You're putting in M. Davis from Seattle, running back, playing at Jacksonville right now.
Davis, the Seattle running back, but it could be Kerwin Williams. There's a couple of people to put here. Needless to say, the RB2 position is my weakest position. So for LeVar, that's his strongest position by far. But the 5.7, whoever I put in there, that may be difficult for them to get. Based on who I put in RB2 this year, none of them even have sniffed 5 points. He might be all right with that.
Yeah, you might be able to get 5.7 points. I mean, look, so Davis Davis in Seattle, he is the second among running backs with 9 plays, while Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls were limited to 3 snaps apiece. So it looks like he's been replacing Carson. I mean, look, he got 14 points last week, although you had some Seattle running backs. I know how you feel about that. And they're going against Jacksonville. So I don't know if you want to put yourself through that again. But then again, he just needs to get 5.7 points. I don't know. And then Kerwin Williams. Peterson was out with the neck injury, so most likely he'll be playing. He got 9.7 points last week. So, I mean, if you're going off of last week's performances, then Davis is the better play. But I don't know. We'll see. I am going to give the edge to either of the two that you play against Kamara just because of the 5.7 points. If this was last night, I'm obviously giving the edge to Kamara. But the fact that I know the results...
Obviously, everybody is. I mean, Kamara has been absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
So this is a huge development.
Yeah. So, but the fact that he only had 5.7 points, I think whatever jabroni, or to quote you, your cat can get more than 5.7 points.
I mean, that's the expectation. I mean, this news might actually be bigger than the Gronkowski suspension. I
think so. Well, because it happened mid-game, and it locked in the results of it, as opposed to Gronkowski, which, look, it's obviously it's a devastating loss, but I mean, to be honest with you, I think Kamara gets more points than Gronk does on average, and at least they have time to prep for, they put in somebody else for the full game, as opposed to LeVar, who just got, he got caught with this. So yeah, I'm giving the edge there, and I think that it is bigger news than the Gronk suspension. Then you have Hunter Henry, who's actually been pretty good, versus S. Anderson. I don't know anything about him. He got 18 last week and nothing the week before. 3.25, 8.2. Who's this guy? What? Why does he have this guy?
Well, Steven Anderson's in there because Fedorowicz is injured again in Houston. So, I mean, these guys, if anything happens, they get scooped up. So he had 5 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, but
savage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about that guy to say anything. Hunter Henry, actually, you picked him up last week, and he last 2 weeks, 15 points, 18 points the week before that. This week he's going versus Washington. I think that's a decent matchup. I'm going to give the edge to Hunter Henry in this. I mean, but that being said, I don't know anything about Anderson. But yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Henry in that. McCaffrey versus Minnesota versus Westbrook versus Seattle. So that's a tough matchup in Seattle. But Westbrook has gotten 13 last week, 10 the week before that. So he's been kind of hot lately, at least the last 2 games. But then again, it's been against Indianapolis and Arizona. But I don't know.
Westbrook is really going up against Josh Gordon. This is only his 2nd or 3rd game back from injury all season long.
Yeah, McCaffrey has just been good all season long. I mean, I'm obviously going to give the edge to McCaffrey, even though he's playing Minnesota. I mean, 15, 11, 20, 20, 10. I mean, the guy's been great. I'm giving the edge in that matchup to McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah.
10 points for his kicker already. Bryant playing at Tampa Bay, I think, or Prater playing at Tampa Bay. I think Prater can probably match that 10 points. I think that's possible. In Chicago at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati versus Chicago. So interesting. Your 2 defenses are playing each other. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to stay. I don't know if I like A.J. Green carving up the Bear defense. I'll have to see who's available.
Yeah, but in the meantime, well, at least from the standpoint of right now, that's an interesting matchup to watch. All right, so but like looking at the whole game, look, I think if I mean I've basically somehow, other than McCaffrey, given you the edge in all these matchups. I think I might go with the Hagglers here, and I might go even further with the Hagglers if Robbie Anderson can go and play well. So to be honest with you. Miner's been great, bad. He's alternated weeks, and last week he had a great week. This might be that bad week. I think you might be able to catch him here.
I would say prior to this game, prior to the Kamara injury, I'd say you would have to you would have to have gone with LeVar.
I would have.
As the favorite.
I would have, absolutely. If we were doing this on the normal night, on Wednesday night, I would have. But we're not.
I mean, we had Jaquiz Rogers in there, and LeVar had Kamara. I mean, I think that this whole thing, it kind of, at the very least, it makes it an even matchup right now. I would say, obviously, I give the edge to myself. I have to vote myself all the time. It's the playoffs. Come on. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You're not going to root for yourself. But, I mean, if I was an objective observer, I would say you'd give LeVar quite a sizable edge prior to the Kamara concussion. And now, you got to look at it like, it at least gives you pause. Like, that's interesting. No Kamara, no points from Kamara. So, the Hagler's lineup doesn't exactly wow you, but you give him more of a chance now.
But to be honest, the Hagler's lineup has never wowed me, other than when you had Deshaun Watson. And your projections are always awful. Like, you always outperform your projections by a massive amount. Like, I see your projections week to week, and I'm like, you blow them out of the water. I don't even know the last time you've been under your projection. Maybe
like
again
90 points, 80 points, 83-point projection when we get like 130.
I know. I think the last time that you underperformed your projection was the week that you played me. But other than that, I haven't seen you be under your projection ever. You're always over it by a lot. So, and the fact that the projection right now is really close, I think that this is, just like Nick and Jamie, I thought that they were vulnerable in their game. I think that LeVar might be vulnerable in this game, which would be interesting. So I guess I'm picking one favorite, one underdog. You being the underdog.
You gotta say, this is as good as it can go for the first game on Thursday.
Yeah.
Considering the kicker and Kamara going, this is as good as an outcome as you could have possibly imagined.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you gotta take it from there, and then I don't know if you're gonna go with Diggs. I mean, there's some choices to be made here. Hopefully Anderson bounces back and he's able to play. But if not, I mean, I don't know if you keep Diggs in there. I mean, he's just been. I need Thielen to slip on a banana peel.
I mean, he
After his interview on ESPN.
He did the interview. You're all good. He did the interview. Yeah. I don't know. So obviously you're picking yourself. And I am picking you as well. So actually we're in agreement on all of the on both of the playoff wild card games. And if that would be the case,
I feel like Nick and Jamie's suspension is really, that may be too much to overcome.
Yeah, and I think that the Kamara thing might be the thing that might be hard. I mean, I think Minor can definitely overcome it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's as devastating, but I do think that, this makes him vulnerable, which would be really interesting. I would have to say that podcast next week would be fascinating, because that would mean that Eugene and Lombardi would be playing each other, and you and I would be playing each other if the results actually held like that.
That would be just
and we could have
endless analysis.
And then we could have both games be broken down. Well, I don't know if Eugene and Lombardi would break down their games. I think they would just rip each other.
Trash talk each other to no end.
Whereas you and I would be chess matching it all week long. But yeah. So, I don't know. An exciting wild card weekend, I think. Yeah, I can't believe we're already in the playoffs. But yeah, we're in December, and this is when all this stuff counts. So it literally is win or go home now. It's no longer like, well, what does this team do or whatever else. It's win or go home. And for the teams in the wild card game this week, this is an absolutely huge game, because if you win this game, then at least you get into the semifinals, which gives you a chance to get back into the consolation game. So you're at least playing until the end of the season for something. Whereas if you get bounced this week, which has happened to me many times, being bounced in the wild card round, which is tremendously frustrating. That's it. Your season's done. I mean, I think you have a 5th place game that gets back into the consolation bracket of nobody caring. But yeah. So important. The wild card week is really probably it's a really exciting and an important week. So I wish good luck to all of the teams that are playing this week.
Yep, I do too. I mean, the only thing I will have to say is, like, for our team against Lightning Rods and Dr. Hockey, it really has been, the last 2 weeks have been playoff games.
Yeah.
So we're kind of more in a playoff mode than I think other teams are.
Yeah. I think so too, though, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what LeVar's mindset is, but I mean, he certainly had to play to win to get in last week too. So, I mean, both of your teams have had to play to win to get in. But I don't know, maybe it's because I've talked to you more, but it just feels like you really have had to, like, it's been very Herculean, like having to just on a razor's edge, having to figure out, just enough to win these games and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I just feel like you really just had to try to piece together teams week by week, flying by the seat of your pants. I mean, mine has been doing that all season long, but I don't know. I get the sense that he does that.
Let's face it, everything has to go right. We're in a situation where everything has to go the right way from here on out. And they certainly have so far with the Kamara concussion and Sanu getting 20 points and actually pulling Kevin Coleman out. So far, it's a very short result, but so far everything has gone right.
Yeah, and
that has to continue.
So I'll ask you the same question that you asked to me, which was, because you have Drake's Cakes going on Monday night. What lead does LeVar need to have on Monday night going into the Monday night to feel secure, do you think?
Well, let's see. So that's going to be my roster for running. Well, let's see when these other running backs go. So Sunday at 4, Sunday at 1. Unless we pick up somebody to go to pair with him, I would say that LeVar Minor going into the Monday night game, he doesn't have anybody playing, right? No, he has nobody playing on Monday night. So Drake's Cakes, let's see, they played New England 2 weeks ago, and he got 11 points. So if LeVar Minor has, let's just say if he has anywhere from a 15 to 20 point lead, that might do it.
I think 20.
New England's been playing pretty decent.
I think 20 points. I mean, because Drake, I mean, New England has been a better defense, but that game was on the road. This is going to be at home. And I'm not saying that he needs to be leading by 20 points. I'm saying that for him to feel secure, I think 20, 25 to really actually feel secure. Less than that, he still might win, but to have this, to feel secure going into that game, I think he needs at least a 20, 25 point victory. Which,
so Lombardi's at like 35 to 45, and Minor's 20.
Yeah, I think so. But it's good that both games are, at least to some extent, should come down to the Monday night game. I mean, this game might not. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, LeVar's feast or famine, so you might know, like, holy shit, his team was awful before then, or holy shit, his team was good before then. Like, Drake would need to have an impossible game. So, I mean, I don't know, but I definitely think the Lombardi, Nick and Jamie game is heavily reliant on that Monday night game. I mean, this one has one player in it. But if it's close.
Well, the way things are shaping up right now, a lot of my players are going either 4 o'clock or the Monday night game. So Minor could actually have a sizable lead after 1 o'clock.
Yeah, he's going with early games. He's having a lot of... His defense plays the early game. McCaffrey, Anderson, Gordon, Green. So only Mariota and... the other Gordon. Mariota.
It could be interesting. It depends on... Especially, again, with this Kamara concussion, if it's close after the 1 o'clock games, that could be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have Diggs, but then you have Prater in your defense right now going at 1 o'clock. Or at the 1 o'clock. That's it.
I mean, how much can you possibly expect out of Prater in your defense?
And Diggs. Yeah, like, let me tell you this.
He'll be out of there. He'll probably be out of there. I'll just let you know that right now. I would count on Stephon Diggs carrying the torch in the playoffs. No, this is too important. He's bungled around in the regular season, put the playoffs on his shoulders. I don't think so.
Well, then even more so, I think that if LeVar is somehow close to you after the 1 o'clock games, I think he might be finished then.
I think he's absolutely finished at that point. We're just a kicker and a defense playing.
So, yeah. All right. Anything else that you want to say before we go?
No, just good luck to all the playoff teams and the teams that got the bye. Congratulations.
Sure, thanks. Yeah. All right. So I guess that.
And great season, everybody. Great regular season. So let's get geared up for the playoffs now, which I'm very grateful to be a part of after we. Oh, it's a horrible feeling to miss the playoffs in 2015. It's horrible.
Well, yeah, but yes, congratulations or to everybody else who's played. You have all earned some money back. Even the worst teams in the league have earned at the minimum of $15 back, which I think come back, early.
Yeah, and those of you who might be saying, when are you going to cough up the cash? I believe it is after everything is all said and done.
Yeah, after the season.
Don't email me tomorrow. Where's my money? You're not getting anything after it's all over, which is the last week, the championship game.
Yeah, a week, at least a week after the championship game. So yes,
right. Don't get any bright ideas regarding the commissioner. Where's my money?
So yes, but yeah, congratulations to everybody. And if you didn't make it this year, I'm sure we look forward to having you back next year and hopefully making it then. Because I think everybody showed promise, and I think everybody, everybody should have learned something from this season, which helps them build in the future. And Nick might have learned that maybe he should play. Millennials too.
So of the remaining 6 teams, would you say, where would you put yourself? Would you put yourself as one of the most dangerous teams, or one of those you need to do some work here. Where would you describe yourself? Because during the regular season, it doesn't matter who was injured or what happened. You always came away with the win. Are you still on that level of confidence, or do you feel all right, you know what? We need to take a look at some things here.
No, I'm certainly in the mode of it's time to take a look at some things here. One,
do you feel like a number 1 seed? I think that's the question I'm getting at. Do you feel like the number 1 seed, or at this point, not really?
I feel like the number 1 seed.
You earned it. You've beaten everybody. You've gotten to the number 1 seed. You got the bye.
Look.
But you feel like at this point in time right now, if you had to play tomorrow, do you feel like, I'm the number 1 seed. I can handle this. I can handle these guys.
Yes. I mean, I don't feel like I necessarily would definitely win, but I definitely feel like the number 1 seed, and I feel by the time that we get to the semifinals, I think... depending on things, it all comes down to matchups. It comes down to matchups of who you're playing and who they're playing. At the time, I have really tried to build a team that is built for weeks, 15 and 16. So though, the last couple of weeks, our scores have been atrocious. I think that we're okay. I don't feel like, I got this in the bag. I don't even need to, do anything. But I feel like I feel like I can match up with everybody, and I feel like I think depending on how things break, look, we don't have to play all 6 teams in the playoffs. One of the benefits of the bye is that 2 good teams get knocked out before you even get to me. And then in the semifinal games, 1 good team gets knocked out there. So it's 2 games. And, can we put together enough now at this point to win those 2 games? That's really the question. I am more worried about the semifinals than I am the finals. I think that the matchups in the finals for me are really good in that week 16. In week 15, I like my matchups. I just don't like them as much. So I think if my team is vulnerable ever, it's definitely more in the semifinals than it is in the finals. Knowing my team. But, I don't know. I mean, who would you say is the favorite at this point out of the 6 teams?
To win it all? Well, Eugene could have been in trouble this week if it wasn't for the bye, because he has got some really tough matchups as well.
Yeah.
He really, really benefited. Both of you actually benefited from that bye.
Yeah.
Very, very nicely.
Yes. So of the remainder,
I think LeVar with the Kamara concussion kind of really changes the dynamics of his team. Nick and Jamie with the Gronkowski suspension. And then you got, what are the others? So Hagler's and maybe Lombardi is the team to watch out for.
Are you picking the coach that you one time called the low-end coach 4 as the potential champion? Is that what I'm hearing here?
All I'm saying is right now, as far as like riding the hot hand and the hot streak, it's kind of ironic. I think that Matt Lombardi with Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen could power their way to a championship.
That would be amazing.
That would, low-end coach 3 is what I call him, but he could end up like a high-end coach 1 champion right now. It depends on Rivers and Allen. I see him, of all the teams that are left, possibly riding that duo to a championship, actually.
That would be something. I still think Eugene is a powerhouse.
Eugene is a powerhouse, but he was even more of a powerhouse with Watson. Like him, the Seahawks are, the Russell Wilson Baldwin. That's his bread and butter.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, DeAndre Hopkins still gets a ton of receptions, as does Fitzgerald, even with the backups in there. I think Eugene is a real. He's the team to worry about. I think, and I'm not saying Lombardi's not.
He's definitely in there.
I think Lombardi.
He's definitely in there, but I think you can't overlook the Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen streak that these guys have been on. These guys have been gangbusters.
No, that's true. It's absolutely true. I don't know.
That's a tasty matchup if they have to play each other. I gotta tell you, that's gonna be trash talk heaven.
I know, but I think we're all in agreement that the Haglers are not the favorite.
Oh no, I'd say we might actually be the 6th. The odds, the highest odds are like 500 to 1.
I think so, though. I think that you could squeak. Look, I think you can squeak it in with this win, and then it's one game. It's like one game to get to the championship, and then who knows? At that point, it's a game 7. It's all out the window. Like what happens that one week? So you never know. I was
riding the McCown, Robbie Anderson train. With Anderson injured, we'll see how that affects things.
Yeah, but still, I'm just saying, this is why it's so, I think that, to be honest with you, you look at these 6 teams, and yes, you could say about the Kamara injury, and yes, you could say about the Gronk injury, but let's say that they survive those games. Look, I think any one of these 6 teams has a legitimate shot of winning the play of the championship. I think these are all 6 really good teams. Okay, take this matchup away. Nick and Jamie, they're a good team. Yeah. They came within point.
Well, I'll tell you what, none of these teams are an Ezekiel Elliott suspension away from having their season over. They have other players.
Yes, these are full teams. So, all right. I think that's going to do it. So yeah, we will see you next week. Hopefully, Lombardi and Eugene, feel free to free up your schedule and let's get you on this podcast and have some trash talking.
Yep. Keep things up. Spice it up with some like in-office trash talk.
Exactly, which I know is going on anyway. All right. So, for ease, for me, all right. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck.
Yep, good luck.
All right. Bye, guys.